All right, so let's take a little bit of an understanding between two projects that I think are neck and neck, and we've had a little bit of input from you, our listeners, on things we should talk about, and that is Curve and also Yearn Finance. And I want to dive into that today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. All right, Curve is an interesting project, and there's been some recent analysis of where it's going. And if you understand Yearn and kind of really where it's going in terms of, they have a lot of similarities, I would say head-to-head competitors in terms of opportunity. I want to jump to this piece where people, analysts basically are saying, listen, maybe there's some opportunities that are starting to develop here with Curve Finance, CRV, and kind of where it's going. Choppy markets after a major pullback. If you were in that group, obviously during the May downturn, we've seen that. What we're trying to do today is kind of identify some projects that could break out as we see the opportunity for this bull market to continue. And Curve could be one of them. So the scenario is one project that has piqued the interest of many, including researchers at DeFi Digital, is Curve Finance, a decentralized exchange for stablecoins that focuses on providing an on-chain liquidity using advanced bonding curves. And this is where it gets really technical, but basically it is a yield engine for you. So the root source of analyst bullish point comes from CRV's attractive yield when staking the token on the Curve platform, as well as other DeFi protocols. Also, users who opt to stake their tokens directly on Curve Finance are offered an average of 21%. This is where it gets really interesting. APY, and are given vote escrowed CRV, which is VCRV, in exchange, which allows them to participate in the governance votes that take place on the protocol. Here's the other thing. The amount of CRV tokens being locked in the protocol for governance was originally projected to have surpassed the total token issuance by the end of August 2022. But this estimate has since moved forward, and that's basically thanks to an increase in the demand for Curve. So now they're thinking, deposits following the launch of the Convex Finance in May of 2020. If the current pace continues, the rate lockup will have surpassed issuance by the end of August 2021. So we're talking about right now, literally as we are having this is literally where it's going to happen. And if you look at this chart, this is a good example of this one. Let me jump to this a little bit so you can see it, of where they're going. So the average 7-day lock, the daily LP rewards, and then the daily total unlock. You can kind of see how it's flowing. But the lock forecast, look at this lock forecast. This is this dotted blue line. And then the lock forecast pre-convex, that's where it was. So this in itself is going to really generate, I think, some very big interest in Curve and kind of go, I think, hand in hand. So the question is how does this compete against some of the competition? Where does Yearn fall into this? And we're going to break those down, give you some comparisons here on Yearn and Curve, maybe which horse to bet on along with this. But let's take a look here at the competition for CRV deposits. They have emerged as one of the cornerstones of DeFi, a lot less risky in terms of earning yield. The two biggest contenders right here on the platform are Yearn Finance and then Convex Finance, which together control 29% of VCRV supply currently in existence. So that's a big deal. If you look at where this is going between these two, again, zooming in on this chart, protocol VCRV holdings, you can kind of see where Yearn VCRV is right here in the blue, and then the Convex is the VCRV is in that orange box right there. So you can kind of see the application and why it's important to understand how these two kind of interoperate together. So I think there's an opportunity here, and this is something that people are really getting into, revenue from providing stablecoin liquidity. This is one of those things that people have done and have talked about doing more and more, especially as the markets are a bit more volatile, because it does create an opportunity for you. This, of course, is one of those episodes that's a little bit more advanced for users out there that are looking to create yield opportunities without going into the instability or volatility of single coin investments. So that's one thing and one approach, much like yield farming, where you can kind of do this with a lot of different projects. And we are going to do a piece on that and get a little deeper on a yield farming dive for you to understand how that can work and maybe some of the tools that you could use to kind of go in that direction. So let's kind of jump to the chart here. I want to jump to trading view real quick. And I just wanted to look at two things. One was the sentiment on Yearn Finance, which is the yellow bubble, and the amplification. And then also this, of course, is the primary candle set up for CRV, sentiment holding at 52.33. And this is in a range right here from July 18th to right here before it bumps on July 20th right now. And this is where curve is starting to move right now. So the question is, both of them, if they're almost in lockstep, because again, they have so much interoperability to each other, you would think that these would somewhat stay in lockstep in terms of the token price. And in essence, they have to a certain extent. If you look back on the chart, all the way back into what is July, early July, right before, right as this analysis came out, early July, they were almost just literally on top of each other right here in this zone. And of course, Yearn started to do a little bit more performance here, and they're track-wise holding very solid to what curve is doing. But here's the key. Yearn is holding in at an amplification score of 39.86. That is not a good amp score versus curve is holding an amp score of 45.73. That's a decent amplification score, and it's starting to show up right here in what we're seeing in terms of its performance. Whether this can pull itself out and really start going back to some of its higher performance as a token, I think the bigger picture here is the ability for curve to maybe start to really line up well against Convex and against what's happening at Yearn Finance. And I think that's the bigger picture here. That's the bigger picture in the sense of understanding which one do you bet on, because you're probably not going to go in all three different options here in terms of yield options in going this direction. So there's some things here to do. I want you guys, as you know, we do these market movers from time to time. The idea is pretty simple. We kind of put this together. We pull a little bit of research in. We analyze and break down the media, because sometimes you have to read between the lines. Really follow the dominoes and kind of those dots that push you around. It's not investment advice, but it does hopefully get you moving in the right direction. And the main thing here between Curve and Yearn is that these are some very interesting projects that we need to keep our eye on. And if you're looking for yields, I think this is going to be one of those that really starts to play out. I'm betting on Curve in this particular case. That's the one I'm going to try to get a lot more involved in, and I think this is one that might work for you guys as well. All right. If you're over on the podcast, make sure and give us some stars. It's the best way you can support the show over there. If you're here on YouTube, the number one thing you got to do is subscribe, share the video out. It's the best way to help us out. And of course, if you have an idea for the show, hit it in the comments below. If you like a token, if you like a project, maybe a CEO. We've got some big CEOs coming on from some big DeFi projects coming up very soon here on TechPath. So make sure and stay tuned. Hit the bell so you get those notifications. If you have the need to hit out to me, just get me up on Twitter. It's @PaulBaron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.